To see podcast episodes early, visit the Telecast on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Prime. Yo, what up? Welcome to episode 9 of the Telecast. This is crazy. Today we are joined by Nick Cimino. You want to introduce yourself, or do you want me to introduce you in some way?
I got it. I'm Nick. I'm a returning guest, great friend, even better ally, and I'm back to talk about whatever we got going on today.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we did a couple episodes ago, so we did the 2024 movie thing, but the 2023 summer movie episode, Nick was part of that, so if you go back, you can hear some more of his input on, what was it, like Barbenheimer, sorry.
I think it was just all like the summer movies of last year and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Here, let me go in and turn you up a little bit, because I'm having a hard time at the moment. But yeah, so what we're going to talk about, mostly movie stuff today. I mean, we just saw, Deadpool 3 came out, and there's some other stuff we're going to talk about. So do you want to just start with giving your thoughts on Deadpool, I guess?
Oh, yeah. I'll try and start off with some non-spoiler stuff, because Deadpool just came out, like a week ago from the release, whenever, like, as we're making this.
Yeah.
At least for the general consensus, I'm seeing mixed opinions on it. I feel like the Marvel fanboys are loving it, and the people who used to love Marvel are also loving it, because Marvel hasn't been the best recently. So there's that side of the coin, and then there's also people that are saying that the script is a mess, the jokes are getting stale, that type of stuff. And I do agree with both sides. So to start from my opinions, first of all, I love the movie. I rated it at about 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd.
Oh, wow.
I really liked the movie. I thought it was hilarious. I thought the jokes all hit for me, if I'm being honest. I did think the script was kind of a mess and the story was kind of a mess, but I'm someone that finds a lot of nostalgia in the Fox franchise, whether it's Fantastic Four, even Electro, which is terrible, that type of stuff. So the whole concept of Deadpool trying to save his, like, canonical universe, like his real world universe, but also that being like a metaphor for him trying to save the Fox universe.
Yeah.
I think the story itself kind of, like, it just wrote itself. So I enjoyed it. I had a really good time. I thought it was fun. I thought the characters were fun. My only my biggest gripe going into it was them tarnishing the legacy of Logan, the movie, because I thought that movie was phenomenal, and I don't think they did that.
What, you think they should have just let him go? Like, they shouldn't have brought him back as, like, the guy, like the Wolverine for this movie?
Yes, I don't think they should have brought back, even though Hugh Jackman is the most perfect Wolverine in my opinion, I don't think they should have brought him back, and I think that they could have just recasted him, and I don't think it would have been a problem. But if they did, they made a lot of money of it. I think it's probably got to be one of the best Marvel, like, selling movies, obviously not close to Endgame, but, like, getting up there just because of the spectacle of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now at this point, they've kind of, like, booked themselves into a corner, because for them to kill off Wolverine again, it'll never be as good as Logan, so they kind of have to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I think it was worth bringing out. I don't think it completely tarnished the legacy of him, but we'll see kind of how, like, where this goes from here, and I'm sure we'll get into that later in the podcast.
Yeah, I heard somebody, I don't know who it was, they were talking about the next Avengers, and basically how Avengers was kind of like a place where you got to see all of your favorite individual heroes finally interact for the first time. And, like, since Marvel has gone kind of, like, since they had the cinematic universe, you kind of lost that novelty. Because I remember back when I first, was seeing, like, the Avengers 1 and 2, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what the heck? Like, Iron Man and Thor in the same movie? And, the issue these days, is that, a lot of these individual franchises, that basically started after Endgame aren't strong enough on their own to really make people have that kind of reaction. But I feel like Deadpool alone, like, having a movie where it's like, okay, Deadpool is going to interact with the Avengers. Now it's kind of like that same, oh my gosh, Deadpool and Thor in the same movie? Yeah. Like, that's how I'm kind of feeling.
And I agree with that. And I think we were I think in our generation, being like, I guess Gen Z, whatever, what are we, Gen Z, right?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I forget what we are, but that, like, age group, like the 20, like, let's say 18 to, like, 25-year-olds that kind of grew up on Avengers, Age of Ultron, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like Marvel should really move with the times and continue this like R rating and more like raunchier and graphic content for
Yeah.
superheroes, and leave like the original Avengers and Iron Man and Captain America to be like the superheroes for little kids, and leave like Deadpool and the X-Men and Doctor Doom and all that stuff to be for people our age, because we were the ones that grew up with these characters,
Yeah.
and they need to kind of roll with the times and move on from that.
I agree, and I feel like the way that they did, like when Deadpool goes, I wouldn't call this a spoiler, but he goes to the in the beginning of the movie he goes to what's his name, Happy, and he's like, oh great, I got a sneeze coming on. He's like, the Avengers were like, they did it because they had to, whatever, and there were all these pictures of like Tony Stark and like Captain America's shield and stuff. It did kind of feel meta in like a good way, because it was like, remember the good times, I didn't feel like it was too pandery with that. I felt like it was pretty genuine,
Yeah.
like, yeah, remember when things were good like this. And for whatever reason, I felt kind of nostalgic for it, even though I've been pretty heavily critical of Marvel. So yeah, to see them kind of come back around and kind of parody, it's like they're self-aware enough now, and they know all the mistakes that they made, so it kind of gives me more confidence, and it does legitimately make me excited. Like, I don't think I've ever been excited about Marvel, since
Probably
Endgame.
since like Endgame.
Yeah, and
Yep.
it's like, now that we got, I don't know, and as far as like the raunchy comedy goes, I agree. Like, I think they should go in that direction, because comedy as a whole is getting edgier. The fact that they said retard in that movie just shows you, like, wow, like they're gonna say that in a Disney movie, like,
Yeah.
for whatever reason that word came back around. I felt like it kind of disappeared for a while,
And my other thing about that is I also hope, like, my one thing about Deadpool is obviously his whole gimmick is fourth wall, and a lot of genitalia jokes, like,
yes,
oh, he says penis, and like everyone laughs.
and his ass.
I hope that I think exactly, and I think at times that they kind of like abuse the fact that it's Deadpool and they can do that. And I think some of the jokes in the movie weren't necessarily too creative.
Yeah,
I'm not. That's not to say I didn't laugh. I found the movie hilarious. I think a couple of the jokes were misses for me, just because
Yeah.
like, oh, Deadpool says another dick joke, or oh, Deadpool says ass, or Deadpool says whatever. Like, I think it kind of gets stale to some point.
yeah,
So I think there's like a difference in like. I don't think that just raunchy comedy just means like, oh, let's say the most inappropriate word we can think of and not get creative. As long as they can remain creative, I think that they can keep the Deadpool universe going. I think the problem is going to be once they bring Deadpool into the like next Avengers movie or whatever they do. I don't know what their story is where they're gonna run themselves into a corner, because now how do you have Deadpool's rated R like humor with like the Captain America, like the new Captain Americas, and like Spider-Man, who don't even like, they don't say mild curse words, like they don't do any of that type of stuff. So how
Yeah.
are they going to be able to mesh that, and what audience are they going to target? I think that becomes their problem.
They could go for like an older PG-13 audience, because like I don't even think in Deadpool 3 I only caught like a few F-bombs really, and like as far as like the sexual jokes, they could have toned it back maybe by like 20%, and it still would have kind of had the same effect. So it probably is just going to come down to carefully writing, because Disney movies already have, they're kind of infamous for having like jokes for the parents, where it's like only the parents pick up on it. So they could totally do, something, or like, where Captain America says like, oh, that's bull, and then he gets punched in the face before he can say like bullshit,
Yeah,
something like that.
exactly. Kind of just lead to it.
Yeah, yeah.
My other question is,
suggestive. That's what it is.
again, not just trying to avoid spoilers. I mean, I feel like by this point, the real big fans of the movie probably would have seen it already.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you think that the Disney Fox jokes were either excessive or forced, or do you think that they landed for the most part?
I think they landed for the most part, but maybe in a few years it might not be as good. I feel like
Like in one age as well.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or like it'll be kind of like a product. People will kind of see this as like the turning point, or or like, oh, they attempted to, I don't know. It's going to be very much like a product of its time. I don't know if they'll age as well, because like how many people
I think like
how many
yeah.
people are going to know that Fantastic Four was Fox? I'm not even super familiar with like the X-Men and like Fantastic Four movies as
Yeah, I
much as
feel
the
like
other
there's
ones.
so many Marvel movies that like who owns what, and with the Sony universe, it all kind of gets shaky to some point.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think like the one joke, again, not really a spoiler, like where he kind of like grabs the camera and like blatantly breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah.
that is so like Deadpool for him to do that. But at the same time, that to me just like was one of those things that it was like it just seemed like very like forced. And props to Disney for being able to like approve all of those jokes, like
Mhm.
especially all of like the talk that they had on like Phase 4 and the multiverse not working out and all that stuff,
Yeah.
because I feel like for them to buy this new character and then allow this new character to completely rip on what they've been doing is very bold of them to be able to do. And in the end, it's paying off with the success that this movie's already having, and it's only been a week.
Yeah.
Um, but I do like I said, I think a lot of the jokes did land for me, especially like with a lot of the cameos. I thought the cameos were amazing in this movie, and I was able to like uh, dodge all spoilers for the most part.
Mhm.
So every cameo was a surprise to me, and I think every cameo character was hilarious, and especially the one like most unexpected and hilarious character with the accent. But like
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Like what
that
the hell?
yeah, it was just so unexpected and so random, and I had a great time watching this movie.
Yeah, that had me like.
So if you don't have any other Deadpool thoughts, while we're on the topic, I want to like pivot to Doctor Doom as well, because I'm curious now as to where now that like Kang got completely just like rewrit and like or rewrote whatever, just completely just like erased, which is a shame because I think that story and that character is a really really good character. Jonathan Majors just is a piece of shit, so like that sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm curious as to like now that like Doctor Doom is like confirmed as the villain, like where that puts Deadpool and where that puts Wolverine.
We did just lose signal for a sec. Oh, here we go. Are we back?
There we go.
Yeah. So, let me redo that. So
Yeah.
I was saying, I thought like, Doctor Doom. I thought he was supposed to be black, right? And a lot of people are like, saying, oh, they're whitewashing this character. And in the past, Disney people have, gotten on Disney's case about doing the opposite, where they take a character that's like white, and make him like Hispanic or black or something. And people seem to have a really big deal with that. But last night I watched Tropic Thunder. And Robert Downey Jr., I think he might actually be able to fill this role. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
No, no, but in all seriousness, I mean that the obvious thing here is that Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. So the people are saying, hey, is Doctor Doom going to be like an alternate universe Iron Man? Like, is that what they're going for with this? What do you think? Do you think they're doing that, or do you think they're just going to start from scratch?
So what I saw on TikTok, again, terrible introduction to a plot point because God forbid everything you see on TikTok. But
Yeah.
from what I've heard is that it doesn't seem like they're going that route. It seems like that he's actually just going to play Doctor Doom. With the whole multiverse and all that type of thing, I did see things as well that you said that like he was going to play a variant, like because in the comics there's actually a thing where I saw where like Doctor Doom gets control of Tony Stark, and
Yeah.
then Doctor Doom like transfers his mind and his conscious into Tony Stark's
Oh,
body, and
that's
then
cool.
Tony Stark's conscious is like flipped basically.
Mhm.
So then like he basically like Doctor Doom is basically like in the Avengers and like takes control from the inside, which would be cool. But I think that if you're going to bring back Tony Stark, I mean they're probably going to be directing this to kids, you would think. So like I feel like that's kind of confusing for them. So I think that they're just going original story. I think Doctor Doom personally is a lazy like sorry, Robert Downey Jr. is a lazy casting in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would have rather seen like I saw like people fan casting like Cillian Murphy. I think would have been awesome because he has the voice. Even a while ago, Giancarlo Esposito was like rumored to
Yeah.
play him.
Yeah.
I think both of them have the voice for it. But after watching the Fox like 2004, like the original Fantastic Four, the guy who is Doctor Doom, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It's something McMahon, I think.
Not
Um,
Vince McMahon.
he kind of resembles Robert Downey Jr.'s look a little bit. So maybe like the casting could be good. I feel like you can't really knock it until you see it. But I do think it's a very lazy casting. He's making a lot of money, and I think that they could have spent that money elsewhere, maybe casting someone better.
Yeah. Let me look up. No, not. See, all I'm getting is Robert Downey Jr. What year did that movie come out? What?
I'm going to say 2004,
2000,
2005 maybe.
2005 looks like. No, see, still nothing.
If you just do Fox Fantastic Four, it should come up.
Yeah. Let's see what we got. Oh, here we go. Full cast and crew. So it was played by Johnny Storm. That was Chris Evans from that one too. I guess I didn't know that.
Which he was amazing in that. Yes, he was
Yeah.
really good in that.
Oh, Julian McMahon. Yeah,
Yep.
let me pull
He
this guy
he
up.
played that role really well, I think.
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of kind of improv production here. I'm pulling this up for the all the listener or all the viewers out there, not the listeners. Yeah, that's he. So what he? Yeah, was it his voice or was it like what made him so special? I guess.
He just had like, not to be this guy, but he had like the aura of Doctor Doom.
The
like
aura.
he acted like a villain, like looked like a villain. He had such a dislikable face. Like he had like that like cocky douchebag, like rich scientist look. Like it just like, and just the way that he spoke. Doctor Doom. The thing is, like in Fantastic Four in that movie, it's 90% him out of the mask and maybe 10% or maybe even like 20 minutes of him in the mask in the original movies.
Yeah.
So if you would think they wouldn't spend 60 million to get Robert Downey Jr. just for a voice, because Robert Downey Jr.'s voice isn't like, I feel like it's going to sound like Iron Man. Like it's going to sound like Tony Stark. So you'd have to think that they're using his face for most of the movie. So if they're really confident that that is the face of Doctor Doom and they really do a lot of production design, maybe make him look a little younger, because I think Doctor Doom's like a relatively younger character. Like I really don't know what direction they're going to go, but again, I don't like Deadpool breaks the fourth wall. So now if you have Deadpool in there, Deadpool knows what Iron Man looks like because he was in the TVA in Deadpool 3. So like, is that going to be like a joke? And like, how is that going to work? Like, are they going to be able to explain that? Is Deadpool even going to be in that movie? That's something to like consider.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if like it's just kind of left up like out in the open, and then maybe like halfway through the movie or maybe at the end of the movie it's revealed that Doctor Doom is actually another person who's like controlling Tony Stark. I mean, because I mean, he's too iconic, and there's no way they could get around the fact that he's Iron Man, and the idea that he's kind of like proxy controlling him makes sense. Like, why would they reveal Robert Downey Jr. at like Comic-Con as Doctor Doom? You know, I don't know. It seems like there's
agree.
more.
Like, why is it that big of a reveal?
Yeah, it seems like there's more to it. You know, or maybe there's not, and they're just gonna fumble it. But who knows? To me, it just reads like there's a little bit more.
And I'm just building off. That's the only reason I didn't mean to cut you off. But
No, you're fine.
I could see that since you have two movies confirmed. You have Doomsday and Secret Wars, and in Secret Wars, it's like X-Men versus the Avengers, basically, like an X-Men team or something like that along those lines versus the Avengers. But Doctor Doom is the one that's kind of controlling that, so he's going to be in both movies. So he's not going to die in Doomsday, which is the first one.
Yeah.
So my guess would be you're gonna have like you just said, Doctor Doom is controlling a variant of Tony Stark, and then in the end, this like Doctor Doom is going to die, and it's gonna be like a big thing, and then it's gonna be revealed that, like you just said, they're gonna reveal the real actor who's playing Doctor Doom, who will be like Doctor Doom for the next movie that's coming out, which would be Secret Wars after that. That would be my guess as to what would happen.
Yeah. So who are they gonna pick for the Avengers though? Like, are they gonna do all the people from the TV shows, or like are they gonna bring back,
Hopefully they don't touch original Iron Man and Captain America, because their deaths and like their arcs are really good. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing the new Avengers is going to be led by like the Falcon Captain America, like the Sam Wilson Captain America, Anthony Mackie, and then obviously Spider-Man. Like those would because those are like the two that I think has enough draw. Obviously Spider-Man has probably the most draw out of any character, like especially for children.
Yeah.
So them, and then now it was just revealed that we can also pivot into this quickly while we're on our Marvel area. The Fantastic Four is confirmed to be in both Avengers movies. So
Okay.
my guess is they're banking that Fantastic Four is a big success, and they can kind of pivot off of that success and use that for the movie. So I'm guessing Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and then the Falcon's version of Captain America will probably be the three, and then probably like the Hulk or something like that, Thor.
Yeah. I'm looking up right now Spider-Man, because I thought Tom Holland signed a contract for 3 more movies, and there was rumors about Miles Morales getting involved, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Into the Spider-Verse and that whole becoming like again the whole thing of the multiverse.
Yeah.
And now that like live action Marvel's doing the multiverse, there's infinite possibilities of how they could bring in Miles Morales like easily. Like they can have Tom Holland Spider-Man literally enter across the Spider-Verse, like Miles Morales' universe, like in like seamlessly, because through the use of like multiverse if they want to. I think they should just stop the multiverse thing entirely because it does leave so many plot holes.
Yeah.
And I think it's plot armor for every character. You can kill off like any character now in the most dramatic death, and the fact that there's a multiverse means they're never really dead. So it just becomes like infinite plot armor for them, and it's like they're never dead, which sucks because it takes away really dramatic deaths of characters. Like realistically, even in these Avengers movie, let's say they kill off Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which would be, I think, a bigger death than literally Iron Man because it's like a kid and everyone grown attached to him.
Yeah.
No one would care because he could just come back. Or you get Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield Spider-Man that would replace him because there's infinite things in the multiverse.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like they did add some stakes though, because again, like you said, the multiverse is like such an easy cop out. But it feels like, they were like, oh, this universe needs like an anchor person. Like that kind of added some stakes to the whole, thing. Like, oh, once this very crucial person dies, or like the whole canon event thing that they did with the Spider-Verse movies. Like, they're
very similar.
They're making rules. And in the Spider-Verse movie, they actually showed like the live action. Didn't they show scenes from the latest Tom Holland Spider-Man movie? Like, I swear.
I believe so, yeah.
So, I mean, at least they're acknowledging the fact that they're part of the same, continuity. But, yeah, having some kind of rules, it's like having all this freedom actually makes things a lot harder. You need to establish rules, in order to actually have something to build off of, or else you're just kind of, like, out there floating around with nothing to grab onto,
Yeah, I agree. And, again, the transition, I guess this could be our last point of the Marvel area to keep the pace going pretty good. But I don't know if you saw the casting for the Fantastic Four that was released. They released the casting for the new one next year.
Yeah, John Krasinski is not the guy, is he?
No, it's not. It's Pedro Pascal.
Oh, right.
Who's in absolutely everything, and Joseph Quinn is Eddie Munson from Stranger Things, who is now also being casted in everything.
Yeah.
Only reason I'm bringing this up now quickly is to tie into the Doctor Doom casting, because when you look at Marvel, their big things are Avengers is 1, Spider-Man is 2, X-Men's 3, Fantastic Four is 4. Those are like their big, I would say their big like comic book arcs pretty much, like their big teams, whatever, because Spider-Man's kind of his own thing. So you would expect them to nail the Fantastic Four. Like, I think as bad as the the early Fantastic Four movies are, the script's terrible. The CGI did not age well. I think it is some of the best casting I've ever seen. Like, honestly, I think if someone told me right now that they like Chris Evans better as Johnny Storm, who's the Human Torch, better than they like Captain America, I wouldn't even argue with them. But now it seems like Joseph Quinn in comparison seems again like such a lazy casting where they picked a big name actor who everyone knows to make people go see Fantastic Four. And that's what it seems like the exact same thing they did with Pedro Pascal. They picked the biggest actor that they could find who would be on board with it, who is like, hey, let's find which actor hasn't been in the MCU yet.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's not long before, like, Brad Pitt and, like, Leonardo DiCaprio are, like, getting casted in some random-ass roles just to grab the biggest names who haven't been in the MCU yet. I mean, the other two characters are Vanessa Kirby is playing, I don't think you know who that is playing Susan Storm, which is the Invisible Woman. And then I forget disrespect on the guys playing the Thing, but those are good castings. And
Eben
then
Moss Backrack.
It just, what'd you say?
Eben Moss Backrack.
Yes, that guy. And I think he looks just like him. Like, it's a very good casting. But, like, it goes down to the Robert Downey Jr. thing. That's why I brought it up. It's like, let me just pick the biggest actor possible so everyone says, oh, look, Robert Downey Jr. is in a Marvel movie. We got to go see it. Or Pedro Pascal's in Fantastic Four. We got to go see it. And I think just to, like, do that for some, like, a beloved comic that hasn't been touched yet by the MCU, I think is just a lazy and disrespectful casting. But again, I have the same optimism that I do for Robert Downey Jr., and I hope it's a good cast.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Like, Joseph Quinn, a lot of people really liked him, and he became kind of like a meme, and I feel like they're kind of trying to get the younger people in because they know that, people our age, a few years younger, a few years older, are, we did grow up with the characters, like we grew up with the Avengers and all of those movies. Like, Endgame was like the biggest cultural movie release, really, or it was like the biggest blockbuster that I think any of us ever experienced because everybody went and saw it. Or not Endgame, but Infinity
I don't think we'll
War.
ever experience. And actually, honestly, Secret Wars could top it, but as of right now, I don't think we could ever experience something like that again. But continue.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it's so I think Joseph Quinn, they're trying to get the younger people involved. Like they're trying to say, "Hey, I know that guy from Stranger Things because I saw that show because I'm a young person and I'm cool." And they're like, they know that Stranger Things has an insanely huge audience and that there's a lot of potential for crossover.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, in the MCU, obviously you want your cameos and your crossovers. I think that's like what you want to see when you know these characters. But I think that, in my opinion, here's what I would like. I would like them to do like Fantastic Four story, make it their own story. Focus a lot of time on a good Fantastic Four origin story, make it really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it necessarily needs to automatically tie in because like maybe just the post-credit scenes, if anything, because I think sometimes I think Phase 4 in Marvel wasn't doing enough where it was like kind of random. But like Shang-Chi, for example, I haven't seen it, but I've heard amazing things about it
I've not
because it was
seen
a
it.
good origin story and everyone loved it. So like if they could just focus on building Fantastic Four separately, I think people wouldn't be like as like, "Oh, how is the Fantastic Four suddenly teaming up with this team?" To get like just use like the beginning, like the first 20 minutes of Secret Wars to kind of explain how the Fantastic Four are now here with the Avengers. Like they
Yeah.
don't need to make Fantastic Four movie be a like, "Oh, we have Doomsday coming up and we have Secret Wars coming up, so let's focus on the crossover aspect." They need to just focus up on building characters. So like you said, they can have like, "Oh, the new Captain America movie's coming out. Like everyone's going to be like excited," or "Endgame's dropping. This is going to be insane." Marvel hasn't had that like aura in a very long time. And I
Mhm.
think Deadpool and Wolverine back because everyone loved those characters because they spent so long building up Deadpool. Like Deadpool was such a universally loved character. Same thing with Wolverine, and they use this movie to explain how they dropped, like how they got in. So like they built up the characters and then crossed them over. I think that's what Fantastic Four needs to be. Is they need to build up the character and then use the Avengers movie to explain how the Fantastic Four is now working with them.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and it goes back to that idea of like, you know, you you're not like you're excited because you have all of these things that you love. They're not good because they teamed up. They're good on their own, and then when they team up, it's like super mega awesome. um,
Yeah, exactly.
that like my fourth grade terminology for it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's super mega cool. But yeah, I definitely agree, and I just think back to like Captain America or like Iron Man, where they had like a good couple of movies where you knew that the Avengers was coming, but you didn't know when, and like at the end of every movie, like Nick Fury shows up, and it's like no way, and it's like this mysterious like background character who he doesn't have a movie of his own, but he like you don't really even know that much about him. All you know is that he's trying to assemble the Avengers, and it's like it's this thing that's just kind of brewing in the background. So it's like you know they're not even like teasing it. They're just kind of saying like, hey, that it's like this guy went on a huge adventure and now look, he's teaming up with them, and you're just in the back of your mind,
Yeah.
you're just getting this like roster that's just building and building and building, and then finally when that movie comes out, like it does pay off because everybody's meeting each other for the first time, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know.
And to kind of just conclude, like, or at least get to the end of like our little Marvel conversation.
Yeah.
Another casting I just thought of too was Harrison Ford was just casted as the Red Hulk in the new Captain America movie.
Ah.
I actually thought the new Captain America trailer looked pretty good, but it's like, again, why is Harrison Ford doing it? I feel like that opportunity could have been given to like a very young actor and to plant seeds. And I hope that this Captain America movie, again, like you just said, is building it up, and then maybe here or there we throw in a very subtle jab at like what's to come next. And it's not all about like just setting up like a big crossover. Like I really hope that they actually give time to like a lot of people didn't watch the Captain America and Winter Soldier show because the Marvel shows have been just so like they felt so forced. So
Yeah.
I hope that they use this opportunity to kind of make the show feel better and like they actually build up some hype from Captain America, which is much needed.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. I don't think anything really has enough time to build up, and it's like, it even though they waited so long to put out another Avengers movie, it still feels like they schedule the Avengers movie and then they schedule everything else in between, and they're like rushing and rushing to try and get all this stuff because like we have to have them in there, so we have to have like this out at this time, and it's like just give it time to breathe. Like if you make it good quality, it doesn't matter when you release it. People will come
The
and,
Avengers movie
you know,
shouldn't be common. There shouldn't be like what? So you have Avengers 1, you have Age of Ultron. Civil War's kind of an Avengers movie.
yeah,
You have Infinity War, you have Endgame, you're going to have Doomsday, Secret Wars. There shouldn't be this many Avengers movies. In my opinion, there should be like 3 or 4. Like like Infinity and Endgame, I would consider it to be like one Avengers movie because it was
yeah,
like an ongoing story. So hopefully that's what they do for Doomsday. But like Avengers should be like every 10 years almost. Like every 10 years to be an Avengers movie. That gives you 10 years to build up characters. It shouldn't be like, oh, where Marvel's kind of dying, let's just throw in an Avengers movie and then hurry up and build some new characters so people can go like care about them.
yeah,
You got to really get some time to like fledge this out because I mean, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby have been writing these comics for like almost 100 years. Like
yeah,
not I'm exaggerating, but 80 years, whatever. So it's like they've been building these characters forever. This is a universe that took time to build, and then for them to just kind of rush it on screen for money just seems disrespectful to Stan Lee and disrespectful to fans. So hopefully
yeah.
they really deliver with this movie because I think there's honestly after the way Marvel's been, I don't think it's ridiculous to say that there's higher expectations for Secret Wars than there was for Endgame. So
Yeah, and when you release things like movies or anything, you're gonna have ups and downs, like naturally, Not, if you expect every movie you put out to be a banger, then you shouldn't be releasing a movie every year or even every 2 years. You're naturally gonna have some lower key projects and some higher key projects, but like, when you force it, when you try and make everything a banger, you end up just falling short, and you're kind of like going beyond what you need to do, I guess is like a good way to put it. Like, if you're a Marvel TV show, you're not going to be doing some world-ending threat. It's got to be something like contained, you got to,
yes,
it's got to be something small. It's like, if you have like, it makes me think of like a big house. Like if you have a giant mansion, you better have enough stuff to put in there, if you're gonna, if you have this big, ginormous house, like, what would you rather have? A giant empty house or a smaller, homey house that's full of like all kinds of secrets and
this is gonna sound
furniture and
ridiculous. That's
stuff?
how it is in Minecraft. You spend all this time building a giant ass like mansion, and then it just looks cool on the outside, on the shell of it, for example. And then once you finally like go in, now it's like, well, what do you do with like this giant ass house you just built, and you have nothing to put inside of it? Rather, you could just spend like half of that time build something small, but make the inside very detailed and buff it up a little bit, and like you'll get a good product.
Yeah, exactly. And that's literally what they need to do. Like, it's a show, nobody's expecting anything fantastic, but if you make a good solid show, you don't try to make it the next big, crazy, thing, people will respect it more. And if you do end up doing something amazing with it, then people will appreciate it more because it's not coming off as like they're, it's not coming off as like arrogant, they're just, I don't know. Yeah, it's just,
No, I agree.
you gotta just save the big stuff for the big stuff, and
Yeah.
and like, it helps the worlds feel a little more disconnected. Like if everybody has their own things they're dealing with, like Deadpool, he's got his love life and he's got, all kinds of other stuff. Not even necessarily everybody having their own universes, but like people just having their own little contained stories and worlds. It fleshes them out more, It's not like everybody's kind of, I don't know. It just feels like they're tying everything to this bigger narrative a little too much, and they're not giving people room to kind of be themselves.
I agree. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So, yeah, you got it.
oh, I was just gonna say, you had brought up Longlegs, right? I didn't see it, but I watched the trailer and I know a little bit about it.
So yeah, that was the other big. I think like that and Deadpool have been the two like very like appalling movies that I've been talking about recently and generating a lot of controversy. That's why I suggested it.
Yeah.
So I did see Longlegs. I saw a late showing, so I was going into it really tired, and that movie woke me up. I will say that. Like I was wide awake by the end of that movie. But that being said, I don't want to give off the wrong impression because people on Letterboxd and critics I'm seeing are saying it was the scariest movie they've ever seen, and the scariest movie in the last 50 years. So
Wow,
I
that's
don't think it was anywhere. Good.
I was just gonna say that's a pretty bold claim.
That's what I'm saying. Like they were saying like the scariest thing since like The Shining, like that, like and they were comparing it to oh, I'm blanking. The movie with Silence of the Lambs. They were comparing it
Oh
to.
yeah, because the female detective and all that.
which is like ridiculous. Like that is like insane to be able to compare it to that standard. So
Yeah.
I did see it. I did enjoy it a lot. I think Nick Cage was scary in it. However, I do think it was just Nick Cage in like makeup. Like it was Nick Cage. Like you can clearly tell that it was Nick Cage. It sounded like him. He acted like him. Like it was just Nick Cage playing himself. But maybe Nick Cage is terrifying because I did think it was scary. Um, Now this is a big gripe that you wouldn't know because you didn't see, but and they don't bring it up in the trailer. But all of a sudden, this is a big problem to bring up in horror in general. The movie diverges into there's this hidden like Catholic like horror
Yeah.
element in it that a lot of horror movies are doing now, where it seems every horror movie is making like some religious things and like oh the devil's controlling it and like this person's motives are the devil. And it seems like again such a lazy cop out. Again, well, we can revert back to the multiverse conversation where the multiverse is such an easy, cheap way out. I think that using the devil as a basis is again such an easy, cheap way out in horror now, where everyone's reverting to it and everyone's using horror or the devil to explain what goes on. Like in this movie, it's kind of a spoiler, but like not really because I feel like you can't really spoil a horror movie when they all kind of end the same way.
Yeah.
Um, with they try and explain how Longlegs is killing. So Longlegs, they don't really show he's not a serial killer, but he makes other people do it. So it brings this big question and like murder mystery type of thing where like how is he doing it? And I'm thinking like oh brainstorming like oh how is this possible? Like how are they going to reveal this? And in the end, it's he uses American Girl dolls. That at least that's what they look like. They're obviously American Girl dolls, but he's a doll maker who summons the devil into the doll and then uses the devil through the doll to control parents to kill their kids.
Hmm.
And it's such like it may sound intriguing, but like after you see it, it's like it's such like a lazy way to be able to write that. Like it felt so underwhelming, and that's not to take away from Longlegs because I do think the jump scares got me. I think it was creepy. It was tropey as every other horror movie is, but it just seemed like again like would I ever rewatch it? Probably not. Is that going to be something I'm going to watch every Halloween? No, because like if I want to see like one of those Catholic horror movies, I'll throw on The Exorcism. I'll throw on like the
Insidious
those
1
type
through
of movies
5.
where yes, exactly. That's what I'm throwing on. I want to see Longlegs because it's a serial killer. I'm thinking it's going to be like a psychological slasher movie, and it wasn't that. It just kind of diverted into like a Catholic horror devil someone pulls a cross out to fight the devil. Like that's like what it diverged into, and I think it was kind of underwhelming in that aspect. And also, I think my expectations were so high going into it, where I was kind of let down. But again, I did enjoy it. Micah Monroe, I think her name is. I'm pretty sure. I know her first name is Micah or something like along those lines. I'm in the realm. She was
Oh
great in
yeah.
it.
Here, I could look this up.
Nicolas Cage was. Yeah, you got it. I'm pretty sure I'm on with the name.
Yeah, Micah Monroe, Nicolas Cage, Blair Underwood, Alicia Witt.
Yeah,
Uh,
Nicolas Cage wasn't like. I think his makeup looked scary, but again, it did look like Nicolas Cage, so whatever. But Micah Monroe was good in it. Good movie overall. Like, would I recommend seeing it? Yeah, probably. I just think you should have your expectations lower than everyone else says that they should be. That's my opinion on it, personally.
Sorry, I just have to bring this up. I looked up Longlegs cast in Google Images, and I got a bunch of images of people with broken legs in the hospital.
For Longlegs?
Yeah, they have cast. They have a
Oh,
long leg cast.
oh, oh, I see. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I thought it was another one of their marketing thing. I don't know if you've seen any of that, but that's the one thing Longlegs had going for them. Their marketing campaign was brilliant, and everything that they were doing. They were having like they made a letterbox account for Longlegs, like the killer, and he was commenting on like people's like letterbox comments and leaving like eerie comments and stuff like that. They were sending like in the mail, they were sending like cryptic letters that was supposed to be from letterbox facts from Longlegs
Yeah.
with like a bunch of like because in like the movie like he leaves letters to the detective, so like they were sending that to like people. So they did great at marketing this movie, and I feel like to be able to make a blockbuster horror movie is something rare now, unless you have an actor in it.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a surprise cast because not many people knew Nicolas Cage was in it. So for them to be able to like market this movie and it it is now like Neon, which is like their company, is it's their highest rated movie and their highest box office movie.
Mhm.
For them to be able to do that is big. Like I said, I just think I was a little underwhelmed.
Yeah, I'm definitely tired of of like the kind of like I like the whole religious horror thing because I think it's cool. It's like, oh, demons and stuff, but it's been so run into the ground. I think that like you need to innovate somehow. And I'll give you this question because this is something that just popped into my head. What do you think is scarier? Somebody killing in the name of the devil or somebody killing in the name of God? Ah, makes you think like, when people kind
Yeah.
of like, I don't know, to me it's like I think like it's like what's the most evil thing on earth? And it's like, oh, like Hitler or like the devil. And it's like, okay, like, those are easy answers. To have somebody who's like killing for a reason they think is righteous and they're not just outright evil, like I don't know, that's what makes like I guess like the whole Hitler thing or like political violence so scary is because people are doing it because they think it's right or they think it's gonna save the world or something like that. I don't know.
That's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, but it's like imagine like instead of a rogue serial killer who's killing in the name of Satan, a rogue Catholic priest who thinks that like he needs to purge the world of like sinners or something, like, oh, I need to kill them before they like.
And I'm sure they've done something along those lines. I can't think of off the top of my head, but I do see what you're saying. It's like, why not focus on like that aspect a little bit more instead of just the demon possessing people is just so unoriginal in my opinion, where it's just like it's such an easy cop out. Like, let's make a horror movie where like, we've done like a Polterclaws reference, but like you can make any object in the house like haunted, right? You
Yeah.
can literally do that. Like, I got stuffed animals in my room. Let's make my stuffed animal monkey like haunted, or let's make a poster. Like, literally anything in your room can come to life if you just do, oh, the devil possessed it and it's the devil speaking through this object. Like, it's such an easy cop out. So I think why not get creative, as you just said, and try something else and mix it up? That's what people go for. And I think horror as a genre is a lot of copy paste. So it's who can make the coolest serial killer, like the
Yeah.
Black Phone that came out with Ethan Hawke. That was a sick serial killer, and it was a cool concept.
Hmm.
That's awesome. They did really good with that. Who can make the next Freddy Krueger? Who can make the next Jason? Like, who can do that? And I think that when you're advertising Longlegs to be, oh, there's a serial killer, and oh, it turns out it's Nick Cage. I wanted to see Nick Cage like violently like kill people or like control people and like do stuff like that because they're advertising this guy as a serial killer. I want to see him be a serial killer.
Yeah.
But instead it's like he's hiding behind the devil and hiding behind dolls, and like it just seemed like such like a waste and just like a not like a creative like anecdote to try and fix their problem that they had of like, how are we going to explain why he's doing what he's doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And well, you brought up Freddy Krueger and like, people would see that and go, "Oh, it's because he looks scary or something." But I think the idea that every person on earth has to go to sleep, like every person has to go to sleep and you don't know what's going to happen like while you're out for 8 hours. Like you're completely vulnerable for the entire time you're asleep. So not only does that leave you open to being murdered in your sleep, but like you have a dream and like Freddy Krueger can like show up in those dreams and it's not up to you. Like, it's like the vulnerability aspect. And it makes it feel like real, like it, you don't like whether or not you believe in the devil is irrelevant because it's not, you don't see the devil, like, you can't like, I don't know, it's doesn't feel as realistic as, like a person who has just gone full animal mode and is just like full of like animal gorilla energy and is just trying to kill you or like just trying to like assault you or something.
100%.
And another
yeah, finish, yeah.
Oh, I was going to go on another little tangent, but I guess I can keep it short. So, there's like a, I guess you can call it like a very like base level, like intro level anime. It's only got like 30 some episodes, but it's called Death Note, and the main character is a serial killer. And what he does, he has a book that if you write somebody's name in it, they die. They have a heart attack, but you can specify how they die. And the reason he does it is because he, wants to kill every criminal in the world. So he's just going through prison, names and going through the news and just killing in mass all of these criminals and stuff because he's like, yes, I'm doing the world a service. And it's like, geez, man, like you're really not.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, wow, this guy got arrested for like minor possession of something, and he's just dead now.
It's
I don't know.
wild.
And it's like, I mean, it's just a cool concept, and it doesn't even need to be like a scary concept. It just has to be like something of substance, like at its base, like killing for the devil. It doesn't matter how creatively you do it. You're still motivated by the same thing.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is I think that the scariest thing that you can do in horror is making people afraid of everyday things that everyone is forced to face. Like,
Yep.
I think you hit it perfectly on the nose when you said about sleeping, for example. If you can make people scared of sleeping, like you said, that they have to deal with, that's something they're never going to forget about that. And that's what you want if you're marketing a horror movie, you want people to never forget about your movie. You want them to be terrified of it. Like that, this is what you want.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to make them terrified of that basic stuff. You don't need to go something like crazy and unhinged and all that. If you can think of something like something simple.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you kind of have to walk a line with horror because everybody, there are some crazy people who love to go after the crazy horror, but like the majority of people want something that's really scary but not too scary. You got to keep it kind of in between. When you brought that up, like people being scared of everyday things. How many times are you driving and you're like terrified that you're going to accidentally twitch and then just run off the road or like cause an accident? Doing something with
Final
that.
Destination's amazing. Final Destination, that's what it is.
Is that a movie?
You don't know about Final Destination?
No, is that concept?
Yes, Final Destination is literally what we're talking about, where it's let's make people terrified of those freak once in a lifetime things that can happen, but like you kind of keep in the back of your mind. For example, the one episode or the one movie I saw there, I think there's like 10 of them, was something like that, where they're driving on the road and everything that you could ever imagine in the slightest possibility of happening goes wrong. They're driving and there's a trailer like a truck that's holding like logs in front of them, and the car accidentally swerves out of the way, and the logs fly out of the back of the car and then go through the windshield of the car behind it.
Yeah.
So it kills the driver. So then now the driver swerves into a propane truck, blowing up, killing the passenger, which then flips over another car, and it's like all this like random shit. But like now you think about that and you're like, oh shit, there's a car. I'm driving behind a car with logs now. What if this happens? And it makes you kind of scared about that. They also do like on a roller coaster, like one of like the wheels snap on the roller coaster on the ride, and now like what do you do? Like it makes you scared of like all this like basic stuff. The movies, mind you, aren't done the best. It's cooler. It's kind of like a Saw type thing where it's just cool to see what happens.
Yeah.
But like, it's making people scared of everyday things and like really simple stuff. Like if you're not gonna go the serial killer route, I think just going like the very simple, like, oh, this could be happening like anytime, makes people scared of it, and then they'll remember it.
Yeah. Yeah. It just made me think of Pee Wee Herman. you ever seen that? Like, how he has that the Rube Goldberg machine set up.
Yeah.
I just see Pee Wee Herman in the bushes like, now if I shoot this arrow there, then these logs will go over there and catapult this person's head into this.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah.
It really happens, yeah.
Yeah, again, another anime reference, I guess, because I can't keep my dirty hands off the weeb stuff, but there's a villain in I forget his name, but it's Toru. He has this ability where you cannot if you try to pursue him, then bad luck just starts coming towards you. So like, if you're like 2 feet from him and you try to like go and touch him, somehow you'll trip and fall and like smash your head on something and die. And like,
the luck thing, yeah.
If he's like across the parking lot and you try to walk over there, like a car will hit you. Like it's inevitable. Everything bad
awesome.
will go wrong. It's really cool. And like, I wish that more people played with that concept because it's so meta. It's like, oh, changing fate to like, kill you or whatever. I don't know. It's pretty cool. But I just like to see those concepts, like I'm a big concept guy, I guess. I don't know. Like I like to be able to think about things.
But yeah, just to kind of wrap up, because we're hitting the time a little bit here. But I just think that like, in all, I think the summer movies obviously have not lived up to last year. I think Barbenheimer was such a spectacle, and I think that's a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to live up to that. I think Longlegs is doing a favor to the horror genre, just in the fact it's bringing people into the theaters to go see horror movies. So I think that's its biggest upside. And I think Deadpool and Wolverine is doing the same thing, where it's like all these people who were so turned off by Marvel just being terrible and being Marvel for so long,
Yeah.
they're all of a sudden like, oh, let me go see these characters who I used to love and like I know I'll like, and let me go check them out. And I think in that aspect, it's kind of reviving the superhero genre. So I think that's the best thing going on for Marvel right now.
Yeah, it seems like yesterday when we were, wondering if people would even go out and see movies anymore, Like
Which I'm glad, and I really do hope that movie theaters never die out. And I don't think they will, but you never know what streaming service is, because there's really nothing like, I think just for my theater for Deadpool and Wolverine, just the vibes and just seeing everyone else enjoy what you're going to see as well. I think there's nothing like it in the world.
Yeah, and things like, re-releases and mystery movies and things like that. I like to see that,
Yep.
I hope that stays around. But all right, well, thank you very much, Nick Cimino, everybody. Give him a hand.
Of
Let's
course.
see. Give him a hand. I don't know. I don't know if you heard earlier, but
Yeah.
I had that little spring sound effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to get used to this thing.
I will be back for the next movie podcast.
Yeah, for sure. We got a bunch of people stacked up for the podcast going forward. We got at least 2 people, actually 3 people going for the next 3. So we're starting up a roster. I'm really excited for the future of this podcast. So definitely subscribe, like it, share it with your friends or whatever, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Goodbye.
See you later.